Hey guys, hi. So today we are going to talk about connective tissue. We have already completed epithelial tissue and the glands. If you did not watch those videos, you might want to go back, search the playlist Human Anatomy and Physiology, and get right onto it. Okay, let's go ahead. So connective tissue, the name itself tells you almost everything about it. One of the major functions, that generalized functions, you might think that yes, it connects, but believe me, it is the most diverse tissue that you will come across, and also the most abundant, right? It's your blood is connective, your bone is connective, your lymph, your you know filling space between the organs, all of that is connective tissue. Now, besides doing the general function of connection that we think that it does, it also does a lot of support. As you can imagine, you're sitting right now, perhaps, or walking, right? So you can't walk without bones. Bone is the thing that gives you the firmness. Your brain is protected by the cranium, the brain box, right? So connective tissue does not just connects, it does a lot of functions other than that, and it is only about to get more diverse as we proceed into the lecture. So if you first want to understand the general characteristics, what are the common features that you'll find in almost all connective tissues? So I am not sure if you're aware with the dish, that an Indian dish that's called savaiya. If you are not, because this video is for the purpose of not just NEET but also students who are target AP or MCAT, so I'd suggest you people may Google images. So savaiya is very sweet. It's made up of milk and something that in English we call vermicelli or vermicelli, however you want to pronounce that, and you add nuts and there's sugar. Any connective tissue you take, for example, would be savaiya. That means there would be vermicelli. Now, vermicelli here in our language, biological term stands for fibers, right? There'll always be fibers in connective tissues. Now, nuts in biological language will stand for cells. So there would obviously be cells. The last component we call is matrix. Matrix is where everything is gelled together, right? Now, when I use the word gelled, please do not take it to mean that it will always be jelly, gooey substance. No, your bone is not jelly substance, right? So when I say matrix, it's something that immerses the cells and fibers, but the physical nature of the matrix can vary, as we are going to see. So when we start talking about cells, there are two basic classes of cells that are there in connective tissue. One is the resident, another is wandering. Now the word itself tells you all. Resident means it is going to be there, permanently housed. And what would be the function of these cells? That would be to support, to maintain, and repair. So they would support the cells, they would maintain the tissue, and if any damage occurs, they are going to do the repair work, right? So they are going to perform these functions. Now let us see examples of few resident cells that we might be asked about. Fibroblast. I hope it's very easy to understand what this does. So the name itself, it will produce fibers. Now if you're confused right now what's fiber, don't worry, we're talking about molecular threads, right? And we'll expand on that very soon. Adipocytes. Now, even if you have taken high school level biology, you know what are adipocytes: fat storing cells. So that is the main function. Okay. Now, mesenchymal cells. Now, mesenchymal cells are pretty important for the sole reason that these are the cells that are going to do the job of repair. So if there's a tissue damage, these cells come into active, and then they divide and they differentiate into the type of tissue that is apparently damaged. Now, fixed macrophages. Now, the biological words, it's very easy to understand them if you read them sort of from the back and in parts. Back and in parts. So phage, eating, macro, they're big. So these are big irregularly shaped cells which are nothing but derivatives of monocytes. If you are confused what's a monocyte, let us for now just say it's a type of white blood cell, a blood cell. Don't worry, we'll get into the details later on. But the macrophages, they are going to eat. What are they going to eat? They are going to eat pathogens. So they are the pathogen killers. So these are few examples of the resident cells that you are going to find. Now we are going to come back to our discussion of wandering cells. Now the name itself tells you all plenty that these cells are going to move around, right? So they move around and they generally encompass the immune system cells. Now you can relate with the function because they are immune system cells and they are moving around in the connective tissue because they want to protect you, right? Many of them also do some sort of damage repair. Okay, now let us try to understand a few of them that you should be remembering. Let me first have the names. It could be mast cells, plasma cells, free macrophages, or other leukocytes. Now, what is the function? What is the chief function of all of these? So, mast cells are generally put into action when there's a blood loss, when there has been an injury. So, they secrete heparin, and if you don't know what it is, it's the natural anticoagulant that blood has, right? So, they also secrete histamine. Now, I know you might be confused that why do we need to inhibit blood clotting when there's an injury. Don't worry about it. It will be more clear as we come into the details of inflammation during the discussion of the immune system. Okay. Histamine is a vasodilator. Vaso, blood vessels, dilator, that means to expand. Why do we want to expand them? Because we want to increase the blood flow. Why do we want to increase the blood flow? Because something has been damaged. We need the immune system to make sure there's no intruders. Okay. Plasma cells. Now plasma cells are again differentiated B lymphocytes. Now, once again, jargon, don't worry. B lymphocytes are once again type of white blood cells. They are your protective cells. And very specifically, the plasma cells are the ones that are going to secrete a lot of antibodies. Now, generally, they are in the blood, but they keep on moving here and there. Free macrophages, they are going to kill pathogens. And there's other types of leukocytes which keep on moving from one to another. It could be simply neutrophil or other blood cells. So the whole purpose of this is not to remember the list of cells, but rather to understand that they have different roles, they serve different purposes. Now our next discussion would be on fibers. Now when we talk about fibers, we talk about three types: collagen, reticular, and elastic. Now collagen fibers are made up of collagen protein. Now remember, this protein is very important, comprises around 25% of your body. Now reticular fibers are made up of the same components of subunits of those that are found in collagen, but they are slightly different. Also, the collagen fibers are thick, whereas reticular fibers are thin. But both of these, they provide strength, especially the collagen ones. Reticular fibers are strong, but to some extent they are more flexible than the collagen fibers. Okay, so remember, this collagen is a protein, this is a fiber. Fiber means a thread woven from the protein. Now elastic fibers, they are made from the elastin protein, and the name itself might have helped you to understand that these are sort of they provide elasticity to any organ. So when someone does hold your cheek out to indicate your cure or something, your elastic fibers are to be thanked because your cheek doesn't come off, right? And these are branched and they are wavy, and they can quickly rejoin and form all of that elastic. They are responsible for the elasticity that's there. You might have heard of a disease called scurvy, if you remember, which is because of a deficient diet in vitamin C. Now, why exactly is that? Because vitamin C is very important for production of this collagen fibers. And as you can understand, no vitamin C, no collagen, and that means all your tissues start becoming weak. You have ulceration in the gums. That's why you have the famous symptom of bleeding gums. Okay, then you have hemorrhages, abnormal growth, and ruptured capillaries, and that is why it quickly shows up as bleeding problems, right? And this was eventually spotted by sailors. So if you're on long journeys of seas, you don't get vitamin C because they're found in citrus fruits, right, like lemons and stuff. So they eventually discovered it, and then they started to stock their ships with those fruits: broccoli, cauliflower, peppers, spinach, so that they were fed with vitamin C. Obviously now you have vitamin C supplements, so there goes broccoli into the ship. Okay, now let's talk about the last but not the least. Ground substance is the non-cellular material that is produced by the cells itself, the cells of the connective tissue. Now, very much this is what keeps everything together. So you have ground substance plus the fibers, and that is what gives you the matrix. So don't confuse between the two, right? Now, sometimes you might also hear the term ECM, extra cellular matrix, because it's outside the cells, simple to say. What makes up the ground substance is largely molecules, big molecules. So let us start by naming them one by one. And remember, back, whenever we want to understand a biological word, read from back and in parts. So the first type of molecule is glycosaminoglycans. Now, back and in parts. So glyco, you can guess by now, that means there's a carbohydrate involved, right? Amino, that means we are talking about a carbohydrate which has amino acids on it, right? So glycosaminoglycans, they are they are hydrophilic. So this means whenever you see something like this, that means I want to say that they are hydrophilic and they are charged, and to some extent they are negatively charged, and because they are negatively charged, they attract positively charged ions, very specifically or mostly Na plus. Now wherever goes Na plus, water follows, right? Osmotically, the concentration of ions increase. That means the water potential decreases. Water follows from high potential to low potential, right? From its higher concentration to its lower concentration. So the amount of GAGs, they are known as GAGs, glycans. So the amount of GAGs determine the amount of water that you would find in a tissue, right? Now, some of the examples of GAGs that you might have heard in younger grades is chondroitin sulfate. If you remember that you find a lot of chondroitin sulfate in your cartilages. Now, what else do we know about? Hyaluronic acid, same guy, right? Now, obviously, they would differ in the carbohydrate, in the amino acid. Don't worry about them. Nobody's going to ask you that. Okay. Now, another molecule that you'd hear a lot about is proteoglycan. Now, please do not confuse between a proteoglycan and a glycoprotein, right? So, a proteoglycan is a glycan to which the protein gets added. Now, if you're confused, then how are they different from GAGs? GAGs have amino acids and proteoglycans have proteins. If you don't know the difference, don't worry. In the biomolecule section, we're going to go in details about it in the mol bio lectures. But Amino acids are little units. They sort of string together to form a protein. Simple, very simplified version, but not exactly true, but yeah. Okay, so glycans or proteoglycans are like 90% carbohydrates, and then let's say 10% is slightly proteins, right? Then what are glycoproteins? Glycoproteins are proteins. That means largely they would be proteins, but to these proteins, some carbohydrates would be attached.